Welcome to the channel. I'm Stacy, and my goal here is to help you to play better and sound better in your worship services. Today we're going to dial in some great playing clean tones. This is the first of a three-part series where we'll be dialing in a clean amp. Episode 2, we're going to add our overdrives and lead tones. And in episode 3, we're going to add our ambient effects and any finishing touches that we might need. My approach to dialing in an amp is to get the volume up a bit, so that way I can hear how the notes are responding to my playing, to the pickups of the guitar, find out where the frequencies need to be adjusted and where the gain level needs to be set. I wanted to use an amp I've never used before, so I've used a lot, but did a little bit of research to find out what amps were great for clean platforms in the Helix world. And the one I decided to go with was the Archetype Clean. This is based on a PRS Archon, which is kind of sold as an alternative to a JCM 800, which is the quintessential 80s hard rock tone. The Archon uses 6L6 tubes, while the Marshall amp uses EL34s. So there's some differences there, but those can be overcome with circuitry. So I'm guessing if they sell it as a JCM 800 alternative, it must come pretty close. I've only played one JCM 800. It was at Guitar Center. I didn't know what I was doing. The drive channel didn't sound great to me, but the clean channel was awesome. So I'm hoping to get close to that with this one here today. All right, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is add our amp. Archetype Clean. Hear how that sounds. Next we want to add a cab. Let's see. It doesn't necessarily have a cab that is set up for that amp. So we kind of can go with greenbacks. That's going to be a Marshall thing. Let's have a look. I want something 412, just because that is kind of that quintessential hard rock cabinet. Let's just start up here. I like that Blackback 30, so we're going to go with that. And real quick, we're going to use a dual. So I'll go with 2 of those. I want to use different mics. One of them will use the 57 on the edge, low cut at 80, high cut at 5K. And then I do want to pan them just slightly, so we'll go like 25 to the left and 25 to the right. And then on this one, let's see, we'll go with the 121. And on that one, I like to run it 5 inches or more out. We'll try cap edge and see how that works. Low cut the same, 80, high cut 5,000, 5K. All right, that already doesn't sound too bad. Let's just see what the bright switch does. Makes it pretty brittle, so I'm going to leave that off for this. I never use ripple. And let's see. We'll go with 7 on that. It is the clean channel, so it's not set up to break up. Even at 10, it didn't have too much breakup, so we'll start at 7. I always run my masters at or close to 10. This gives you low end, and this is also engaging those power tubes. So obviously it's digital, there's no tubes, but that's what it's supposed to be emulating. Bring that down to 8.5. We are getting some breakup from those tubes with that being cranked up so much, so we'll bring this down. Let's bring it down to 5. That's not bad. Take presence out. And then I like to turn all the EQ, the tone stack stuff off and kind of see what each one does. So I want to hear if the bass adds any drive. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it also can be flubby. Let's see. We'll go in the middle. Put these at 5. It gets a little woolly, so we bring that down. All right, that's not too bad. Probably bring it down another 0.5, so 3.5. And then let's see where the mids are at. That's not bad. And then we'll see what the treble has to say. So adding that treble thins it out a little bit. So we don't want to go too high on that. Maybe try 6.5. Bring the presence up. That sounds pretty good. And then coming down to our lower section, I like to add a bit of sag. That's kind of going to add some of that playability. So I'm going to push that up to 6. And I like the low end that we get from adding hum, so I'm going to bring that up. It doesn't really add hum, so bring that down, at least not a lot. You can hear how it just adds a little bit of fullness there to that low end. We'll bring this to 6.5. All right, and then bias, I always start at 0, sweep it up and see where it kind of hits the peak, and then kind of land in that spot. Looks like 5.5, and then bias X. What that can do a lot of times is kind of add a little bit of smoothness to that breakup. And so there's no breakup, but it'll still add a little bit of kind of, I call it like a caramel tone. Just get a little bit of goo in all the right ways. I don't notice a whole lot of change there, but we'll push it up. I tend to run this 1 to 1.5 above whatever the bias is at. And then depth is something that most amps don't have, so we'll see what this does. Kind of like the treble being pushed up, this thins it out a little bit. There's a little bit of a grind I'm not liking, and I didn't hear it so much when we had the master down, so we'll turn that down. That's a little better. And we need a little bit more treble. right, that's pretty good. And let's see. So we're running the 57 and a Royer 121. I just moved that Royer a little bit more towards the cone. It is 5 inches away. Probably put a little more distance there. That's pretty good. All right, next thing I want to do is add reverb. So we will come over here. And we'll do a stereo reverb. And I like the double tank. The Hot Springs is good. It's got a little bit more depth to it. That's a little warmer, so we'll go with that one. We don't need a ton of decay. Not typical to spring reverb is pre-delay, but we'll just add a little bit here. And then let's see what rate does. Keep that low. Modulation. That's good. 30%, might be a little high. Bring that modulation down even more. I like that. Let's see. So I left the low cut at 169 hertz. But I turn off the high cut just to give that reverb a chance to add a little bit of something to the top end of our tone. Next thing I want to do is add our deluxe comp. So I like to add compression for clean tones especially. I kind of use it on everything, but putting it on clean tones can just kind of give it a little bit more of a good feel in the hands, and so we want to do that. Deluxe comp doesn't use a ton of DSP, so we won't be having to make changes later down the road if we use this one. And it's pretty versatile. So anywhere from 4:1 to 6:1, I think is good. And I'll tend to run the threshold at minus 25 for just a basic slight bit of compression. And then for slide tones, I'll usually run that up to minus 45. So we'll just see where this is at. It's minus 37.1 as it comes in. I do like to change the attack and move that out 100 milliseconds just so that it's not an abrupt click. And then the release is at 200 milliseconds. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Just undo. Leave the mix, and then level, I want to put that at 0. I don't want to push the amp with the compressor. And then the knee, I'm going to put at 15 decibels. I did a ton of messing with this a long time ago, and I just found that that kind of was a sweet spot for me. You can hear how there's a slight bit of grit without the compressor. But that gets smoothed out. So that's good. So minus 35 on the threshold, 100 milliseconds on the attack, where our ratio is at 6.1. 100 milliseconds on the attack, 200 milliseconds on the release. That just keeps it from being kind of obnoxious. I've got the mix at 100%. We can bring that down. Let's see. That's not bad. think that reverb might just be a bit too shiny. So I'm going to put the high cut at 10K. Bring it down a little bit more. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a simple EQ block to the end of our chain to bump that Holy Midrange. The Holy Midrange is 777 Hertz, and I bump it anywhere from 1 to 2.5 decibels. And it gives the amp just a bit of a fuller sound than what you have without it. So just coming up here, we want to make sure that it is a stereo block. And change that mid frequency to 777. And that gain, we'll go 2 and see how it sounds. So real quick, here's how it is without. And with. For me, even clean parts get played with a little bit of grit. Maybe I'm just too insecure to go full clean, since it does highlight the weaknesses in my technique. How do you handle clean tones? Do you accept your challenge, or do you use your go-to gain stages? Let us know in the comments. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, subscribe and hit that like button for good measure. Episodes 2 and 3 will be out later this week. I'll have those linked at the end of the video, as well as in the description box below. You'll also find in that description box a handful of downloads free for you with some presets and some documents to help you on your tone journey. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.